Hey everybody, welcome back to another Mysidia Post video. My name is Alex Scott,
I'm Travis Pfeifer.
and we are doing Opus XI set reviews. This time it's Lightning, so let's get into it.
All right. Why don't you start us off, sir?
Okay, first up we have Red Mage, which is a 4 CP standard unit 7k forward. It's category special, which is relevant in title and multiplayable. When Red Mage enters the field, if the cost to play Red Mage was paid with CP of 2 or more different elements, until the end of the turn, Red Mage gains 2000 power and haste, so it'd be like a 9k haster. Which sounds nice, but he's 4 CP, so useless.
Yep.
And it's
Yeah.
a really nice art, and they totally wasted it with this ability and this costing and stuff, so...
Yeah. Great art. I like that they're putting more into the special category, and like you said, just a shame it's something. So,
Yeah, pretty much all of these wave of standard units could benefit from being 1 CP less, and I don't even think they'd be broken because if you
no,
want
because
this,
they have that caveat. Yeah, you have to get that other skin.
yeah, we already have Nero that does the exact same thing, except you have to have a different element on the field, and he gets Brave. He's a 3 CP. He also has an auto ability as well, so it wouldn't even be encroaching on his territory that much because the cards are different. So they just totally overcosted these.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to a good card.
Yay! A little more 15 love. This is our first Lightning Legend. 4 cost, 7k, Aranea from Final Fantasy 15. She's a Job Dragoon. Ooh. So she has First Strike. For each forward other than Aranea you control, she gains 1000 power. At damage 3, when Aranea enters the field, choose one lightning forward of cost 2 or less in your break zone. Play it onto the field. Damage 6, Aranea gains the forwards you control gain haste. Such a cool card. One of the first cards revealed for Opus 11, so we knew about her a long time out. Again, it's great to see more 15 love. She was the first card I saw. I was like, okay, I think 15 Lightning Earth is going to be a deck. And it totally is. So obviously, you're probably not ever going to play her by herself, unless you're on damage 3, which if you do, she's bringing something else out. So she's going to be at minimum 4 cost, 8k power with First Strike, which is great. And there's some decent lightning forwards. There's a new one called like Glauca, I think, and he lowers the cost of all other lightning characters. So she has some pretty nice targets she can hit. And just that damage 6, I don't know how often you'll see it, but it makes it very dangerous to put your opponent on 6 if you know they have this, because it's this great like last stand movement. It's just like, okay, it's all in now, and I can just whoosh. So yeah, she's a Dragoon, so she fits in with other Dragoons, and there's so many other Dragoons that buff other Dragoons and give other Dragoons power and make other Dragoons cheaper. And if you got Barbara, and then she'll have haste through that. I think this card's really fun. I think this card really, if anyone's kind of like down on this card at all, I would honestly think I think this is fair, and I think that's the point, is that this isn't some dumb legend that just breaks it, breaks the game by itself, or just makes one thing completely unreasonably powerful. No, I think it's very well constructed, and it has a weak mode and it has a strong mode. It has a time where it's dangerous and a time where it wouldn't be as dangerous if you put it then. So I like her a lot.
I also like this card quite a bit, and it is an archetype boost done right because she is fully playable outside of Dragoons. But
Yes.
she will get all of the Dragoon synergy if you do play her in Dragoons, and that's the difference between something like this and something like Ursula in Earth, where it's like you're playing monks if you want to play Ursula. This is just going to be a good mono lightning card, and it could even be a water lightning card. Could play with other elements as well. It seems just like a really solid card, not overpowered. The damage 6, where normally I would say you can't depend on damage 6. I guess I'm still saying that. But the haste part of it makes it a little bit different than the other damage 6s out there, because I just wouldn't be surprised at some of the matches that are won on the cusp of defeat because of this damage 6 ability. I really do
Absolutely.
think that Lightning has the potential to just say, well, I can haste all these guys, I'm going to win. And
Yep.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah, she's great.
She's neat. Okay, next we have Yellow Jelly, which is a Flan 3 CP FFTA monster. During your turn, Yellow Jelly also becomes a forward with 7,000 power, and then he has his Lightning, discard Yellow Jelly, remove 1 backup from the game. choose one active forward, deal it 8,000 damage. You can only use this ability if yellow jelly is in your hand. So I think it's definitely a stronger damage. It's kind of like the ice one, which is nice, but yeah, you still don't really need this in lightning. You have a lot of other stuff to deal damage with. It's a nice piece of removal for limited, and that's about it.
Yeah, I like his art a lot. He's cute, and I
Yeah.
like, flans are always fun. But yeah, honestly, as I'm reading it now, it's like if you're gonna have to remove a backup and pay 2 from hand and 1, why not just play Kane? Because he's remove a backup, then 3 cost
Yeah.
to bring a big body down that can also block for you and makes them lose 8,000 power. Like, yeah, Kane just seems like a way better version of this card for the
Yeah.
same effect.
Super good analogy there. Okay, moving on.
All right, next we have finally Elena, or Elena, I believe it's Elena, from the Turks. She's a job member of the Turks from Final Fantasy VII. 2 cost, 7k forward. That's quite strong. She has haste. If you control a card named Rufus, Elena gains 2,000 power. Elena can only attack if you control 4 or more forwards, or if you control a job member of the Turks forward other than Elena. So it's a good thing they put that last line on there, because otherwise, at a 2 cost, 7k haste, potentially more, she would have been really, really strong. It's nice to see her finally get some love. I imagine if you're playing a Turks deck, she's probably almost always going to be live as far as an attacker. But even if, like, on the offhand chance you don't have another Turk forward, she could still then, especially if you have Rufus as the backup version, she'd still have 9k power blocker for 2 CP, which I think is really strong. So if you're playing a Turks deck, I feel like you're never going to have that problem that she can't attack. So because of that, I think she's very strong.
This is going to be one of our first disagreements of the set reviews, because I think that a 2 CP 7k haster is already unremarkable, because we have things like that with Morrow in Fire and Soul in Fire. It's been done before, and those cards aren't that good. Like, Soul's the best one and requires a lot of synergy. And if it said if you control a job member of the Turks other than Elena, she can attack, then she'd be fine because you have Turk backups. But because it's a forward, it makes it a lot harder to keep job member of the Turks out. It's hard to keep Rufus around. I think that she's an auto include in Turks decks, because when she dies, she uses Rufus's ability.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, I wish that the amount of forwards, if they weren't Turks, was 3. Like, that would be more reasonable for her. But I think it's way too many hoops to jump for. It's not consistent. I've played a lot of Turks, so that so it's not coming from speculation. Like, I've played with the new Turks as well, and I just don't see it working.
All right. Well, I haven't played them much, so I will defer to your greater wisdom. But I'll also come back and rub it in your face if I was right at the end of the Opus.
Okay. Next up, we have Gadgeteer, which is a 2 CP lightning backup standard unit FFTA. He has 1 lightning, dull, remove Gadgeteer, and 1 backup from the game. Choose 1 backup in your break zone if its cost is equal to the total cost of the 2 cards removed from the game played onto the field. You can only use this ability during your turn. I love this backup. It's really neat. It's a new effect, and it's allows you to bring out some pretty cool stuff. You get to play a backup, so you're really only going down 1 backup. You're just replacing one of them with the new backup. If you are playing in Lightning and you have Aldo that you use to search a forward, and then you have Gadgeteer, you can play the 6 CP X Death from your break zone and play a 4 cost forward out onto the field. So you get kind of like a cool recursion chain. This is good because X Death is often not good early, and it's hard to play him, so you discard him, and this allows you to play him even off of 5 backups because you're breaking 2. So it just lets you get like these kind of cool chains. There's other ones like the new Puck is a good target as well, and it doesn't actually specify the element. So again, like we said with Luca, you could use this to take some off-color backups and put them into your deck and do some fun stuff with that.
Yeah, you could bring out a Menphilia with this, like any backups on the table. Whether this card ends up being good or not, I like it just because, like you said, it's effect. It's unique. It's a neat idea. He kind of fits in with the Ice Black Mage in that sense. So it's cool to see them kind of coming up with new little tricks you can use. Again, regardless of whether he ends up being good or not. Yeah, I like him. The only thing is, like, it's kind of a shame, and maybe it would have been too strong if this was the case, but it's kind of a shame he removes the cards, because if they went to the break zone, you could chain him with, like, the backup Fusoya Lightning or other cards that get benefits and they go in. But with someone called Rampier on the loose, maybe they thought that would have been too strong, so I don't know. But yeah, regardless of how good he ends up being, I'm glad to see he made print, and he's really fun.
Now we just have to figure out which 5 CP backup to use so that this can bring back a Shantoto.
Right.
Okay, now we're going on to another legend.
All right, I'll hit the second legend. This is Kuja from Final Fantasy IX, Job Genome. He is a 4-cost, 8k forward. When Kuja enters the field, choose one forward of cost 3 or less opponent controls. Break it. Kuja deals you 1 point of damage. He has a special, Thundaga, which requires a special and 3 lightning, and then you choose up to 2 forwards opponent control. Deal them 2,000 damage. Then deal 5,000 damage to all the damaged forwards opponent controls. So with Thundaga, he's obviously guaranteed to basically hit 2 forwards for 7k. And if you had something else that like pinged a whole board, whether it was through a dancer or something else, he's then going to pile on another 5 to all of them. It's kind of nice that it's not lightning. Or that they're not active, so they can actually be dull, so this does give lightning something to hit. Beyond that, I have to be honest, I'm not really a fan of this card. Breaking a forward of 3 or less is nice, but he deals you damage, and I feel like there's other cards in the game that can break something on entry and don't have that downside. I mean, look at the new Sephiroth that came out. Like, he just breaks whatever he wants, and there's no downside of also dealing you damage. Maybe, again, in a deck that you want to take damage, whether it's through Dadluma or some other nonsense, like maybe you could do that, but I don't know. Like, I just don't find that very appealing. And Thundaga, I also find to be very underwhelming as well. Like, okay, 7k to 2 people isn't bad, but it's also costing you a special plus 3 more, so that's 5 CP total for that. Again, maybe if you had some way, maybe if you did some kind of Valafor combo with this, where you Valafor and then you Thundaga, and so now you're hitting it. But again, if you're running Valafor, you probably already have Nuts board wipe anyway. You don't even need this thing. So I don't know. Do you feel differently about this guy? Because when I first saw him revealed too, I was very underwhelmed by this.
I was a little underwhelmed when I saw him revealed, and I've only been more impressed with him the more I think about him, and then playing against him and with him online, he's immediately become very powerful in my mind.
Really?
Breaking a 3-cost forward on entry and you get a forward is a huge swing. And if you think about using a Fusoya ping to deal 7k, that's your average power of a 3-cost forward. So it's like, hey, here's a Fusoya ping on a forward, and then you just have a forward out. So that is inherently super strong. It's actually kind of funny that you use the Sephiroth example as a better card, because if you played Sephiroth in Lightning, then you would have to run this Kuja to get your Sephiroth ready to go. So there's reasons to do it, and it's just as simple as why would anyone ever play this? It's the same reason why anybody would play Fusoya. So it's a resource that you're trading for removal, and that's super valuable. This kills things like Y'shtola, which is something that Lightning doesn't have a ton of problems with because of damage reduction or power reduction, but in general it kills things like Citra, kills a lot of different forwards. So I do like this a lot. The Thundaga, I think, is a bonus. It's not something that you need. Although it would be interesting, like for example against Weewa, this is killing a Citra and a Pain, and in WAF, this could be comboed and could kill a couple of things too. They have some smaller forwards. Like there are applications for it. So I think this is probably one of the more powerful legends in the set.
Interesting. Wow, we were really on different ends on this one then. Yeah. I do love the art though. Amano's art's always great.
Oh, big time, yeah. Okay, now we have Glocka from the Kingsglaive movie. So he's a 2 CP 5k forward, category 15 job captain, which we have a few of now. The cost required to play your lightning forwards onto the field is reduced by 1. It cannot become 0. When Glocka or a forward enters your field, choose one forward, it gains 1,000 power. until the end of the turn, which is super nice because you're playing all these forwards because they all are reduced. I think this is such a cool mono lightning card that allows a 2 CP Alua. That alone is really good. But think of the turns you can do now where it's just like, okay, I've played all these forwards, I played Alua, now I can Alua special and win. Or just maybe you have this out and you go to 6 damage with Aranea out, and then all of a sudden you can play a bunch of extra forwards because they cost less and they all have haste, or like whatever it is. I think that this is just going to be a really neat card, and it requires the deck slot and some CP investment, and I think that it's like this is what a cool version of the Tilica from Earth would be, because it's on a forward, it gets to cost less, and it gets to be a passive ability because it's so much more easier to interact with this card than it is with Tilica. So this is like this is what Tilica could have been with a different power level.
Absolutely. And honestly, I think it says a lot about him that, to me, his second effect almost isn't even relevant, and it's a good effect. Like, again, if you're playing cheaper stuff, everything you bring in, you're buffing something by 1,000, whether that's you're buffing just whatever it came in or something new, or you want your Alua to just swing in for 9k for some reason. Like if he was just the cost reduction, I think he'd be good just for that. So the fact that it's a bonus, like, oh yeah, and you're also going to get 1k for anything else you do. So yeah, he's really fun. He's really strong too.
That 1k is very relevant because lightning forwards are on average 6k.
Yeah.
So if you don't have Lulu out, then that's super important, I think, to get your lightning forwards up to that 7k mark for sure. So let's keep on that Kingsglaive theme.
All right, as you wish. This is a 3-cost backup, Job Kingsglaive. This is Crow from Final Fantasy 15. This really makes me want to watch Kingsglaive again. I watched it the very first time before I ever played 15. And so I don't remember a whole lot of it. So some of these characters, I'm like, oh, I remember you, but I don't really. So maybe I need to watch it again just so I can refresh myself. I was so happy to see this set because the lightning portion of 15 definitely needed a boost if we wanted to make that Lightning Earth 15 deck, and now we can. So when Crow is put from the field into the break zone, choose a forward in your break zone. Add it to your hand. And then she has a dull ability. You dull her, put Crow into the break zone, choose a forward, dull it. This is great. This card is not only going to work well with the other Kingsglaive cards, which we're going to see shortly here. I love that even though she works well with them, she doesn't need them. On her own, she can dull, break herself to not only then she's going to get that recursion, she's then going to dull a forward. It's a 2-for-1. And I love, this is a good card design because, again, the combos and the synergies are fun, but when they're only reliant on that, again, when that doesn't happen, then the card just can't do anything. So I love that. It's like, okay, even if you can't get Nyx and the others out there on her own, you can dull something whenever you want, and you're going to get a forward back from your break zone. She's really good. Plus, I love her artwork.
Yeah, the toughest part about it is that 3 CP investment. That's going to slow you down a little bit, but I think it's something you can get over given just the synergy it has with Nyx and the ability to trigger it yourself in a pinch. This actually is a really good way for Lightning to grab back an Alua for an Alua special. So I think that might even make it C play.
Yeah, because it's just a forward. It's not like it has to be a 5th forward. So, yeah.
Okay, next we have Man in Black, who is definitely not Golbez. He is a 5 CP 9K job question mark. He is category 4. You cannot play Man in Black or card name Golbez while already in control of either character. It's a mystery. When Man in Black enters the field, choose one lightning summon of cost 3 or less in your break zone. You may cast it without paying the cost. If you do so, remove that summon from the game after use instead of putting it in the break zone. I like this card. I think that there's a lot of room for it because Golbez all the Golbezes are so hyper specific that he's not really clashing with anything, and it's like a kind of a one-of that lets you cast your summons again. So I think it's got a lot of potential because there's some pretty good 3 CP summons in Lightning. You have Odin, and you also have Ramu that's quite powerful. That Ramu
Cyclops.
Cyclops is really good. You can actually play the Ramu, dull something, and haste the Golbez. The Man in Black, and then swing in. So he's kind of like you can think of him that way, like dull a forward and haste. That's not bad. It makes you feel better about pitching your summons, because sometimes that's the tough choice in Mono Lightning, is holding on to your summons or pitching them. Well, this gives you extra chances to cast them. So I think this will definitely see play as a one of in Lightning decks.
100, yeah. And when we talk about a starters at the end of this review, generally I don't find that removing stuff from the game in Lightning is a big problem, because for the most part it's not overly reliant on recursion. So I've always felt like that's a very easy penalty for Lightning to pay. It's like, man, I'll gladly remove this from the game. I wasn't going to pull it back anyway. So yeah, he's fun. He's really fun. I like him. Random question: do you think the whole can't be played while you control Golbez that this has, and that like Lise and Ida have for Scions, do you think that's actually for balance purposes, or do you think they're just doing it for theming purposes? Because I don't see like why that would be too strong to have this in a Golbez out. So in my opinion, it feels almost more like just for theme purposes.
I think it just depends. So Golbez is a weird example. So for this one, it's absolutely for theming purposes. For Hooded Man, playing it with Kain might be a little strong, giving you a lot of 4 characters, because it can recur 4 characters.
True.
And that would be in a Wind Lightning deck that would give you could play him, recur a Kain, and play a Kain. So that would probably be too strong. With Lise, I also think because she's a sign of the 7th Dawn, that would be too strong to have both Ida and Lise on the field at the same time. That's extra Scions, extra synergy, extra power. So I think those are probably balances as well. I think that's why they put her in fire and gave her that restriction. But I feel like it's both for most of the cards, and then for Golbez, it's for sure just
to keep the theme.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on.
All right, let's get to some ninjas. This is 4 cost 8k Zangetsu from 4 Job Ninja. He's a forward. When Zangetsu enters the field, choose up to the same number of characters opponent controls as the Job Ninja or Card Name Ninja you control. Dull them. And then for 1 lightning, Zangetsu gains haste until the end of the turn. I love the action ability. 1 lightning for haste. I think it's very strong. And you shouldn't have any idea doing that, and especially if you're putting them down and you're dulling several of their forwards or characters or whatever you want to hit. It can make him an instant surprise. I mean, he'd be a great surprise you're dead turn close to the end of the game when they think they're going to be fine. It's like, it kind of reminds me of Alba with the Warriors of Darkness and the Pop Star dance, and I would always do a surprise, and you're gone. So he could definitely come down closer to the end of the game and, that's it. You thought you had a wall of blockers? Yeah, they're all down now. Bye, whoop, and zip right in. So yeah, I think he's going to be fun to play with the whole ninja set. There's another version of Zangetsu, which is very good, which plays well with Edge. And of course, this one's just going to fit right in with the Gecko and the Edge and all that stuff. So yeah, I like everything that reads about him. And again, that surprise dual multiple forwards effect, as we've seen in Lightning, whether it's Bahamut Zero or Alba, that can surprise a lot of people and close out a lot of games unexpectedly.
Yeah, I love this for the same reason I love Alba, but Alba also costs 3 and has haste, whereas this one has to be reduced by Edge, so you have to have that Edge out, and you have to pay an extra CP to give it the haste. So that makes it strictly worse, and obviously no built-in protection. But in a ninja deck, this will be a way to close out games. Maybe this is a ninja that you don't run a lot of, maybe a 1 or 2 of, just so that you can use it to finish off the game at the end. But it's tough. They couldn't have costed it 3, because then Edge would make it 2, and then that would be way too strong. But it's tough at 4, especially with pay 1 for Lightning, which is an ability I love, by the way. The just pay 1 to get haste, like that's a really neat ability to have on him. But I feel like he's probably one of the weaker ninjas, but has a lot of potential in a ninja deck to close out a game. Okay, this is my favorite counter monster, I think. So this is Skeleton. Is 1 CP undead, job undead, category 9. When a lightning character other than Skeleton enters your field, place 1 monster counter on Skeleton, and then you can put him into the break zone and choose a 4 to cost 2 or less and break it. So that breaks Aun, that breaks Lon, breaks a lot of random little forwards here.
No wonder you like him. He's a WAF counter.
Yeah, and put him into the break zone, choose 1 forward of cost 4 or less, and break it. You can only use that if you have 3 monster counters on Skeleton. This is, in Mono Lightning, you're playing a lot of Lightning characters. You're playing hasty people. If you're playing the Glocka that we just reviewed, then you're playing lots of forwards. I think that in those decks, this has the most chance to rack up counters. And those decks also have something called Urianger, which can recur this. So you can play Urianger for 1 CP to bring back a skeleton and rack up some monster counters on it, and then break it to break a 4 cost, and then play it again and with another Urianger, and then just keep recycling. And I think that might actually be a thing.
Yeah, you advertised him really well. I love his artwork. He's really cheeky.
Yeah.
And originally I was going to kind of just dismiss him as the others, but you made some good points about why he could be a bit more relevant than they could. Stuff when it's cost limited always makes me just a hair nervous, because I own several decks that I don't have a single 2 CP forward in them. So again, without the counter buff, he'd literally be pointless against those. But like you said, if you're going against WAF, generally has some. Wind Water might have a Porum in it, so he definitely has some live targets. So yeah, I agree. I think he's maybe one of the better of these monster counters.
We're also going to see a meta that will likely include the 2 CP Water Zidane and the 2 CP Fire Zidane that got printed this set, because 9 got a boost, so there's going to be some 9 even for a little bit. So this might be a card that, depending on your locals, you're going to run a lot of. And when you go to a Crystal Cup, or sorry, there's no Crystal Cups, but if you play online, maybe you don't play it. Okay.
All right, next we have Selkie. She's a 3 CP backup, job standard unit, Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles. When Selkie enters the field, turn over 1 card at a time from the top of your deck until a fire or water card is revealed. Add it to your hand, then shuffle the other cards and return them to the bottom of your deck. Lightning Water plays well together. This could be very good in Dragoons. My buddy runs a Water Lightning deck that's really Dragoon based, so this could be very useful for that, as you're going to pull something out that you like. I don't know about Lightning Fire as much. Maybe with ninjas, but then again, I feel like you want backup ninjas, so I don't know. But again, like all the other cards of this variety, it does what it does.
Yeah, Lightning Fire is your Final Fantasy 14 deck with Alphino and stuff, and the generals. And then thing about Lightning Water and Dragoons is that you have Kingdom Burmecia and you have Braun to be doing most of your searching on in the EX burst. So this is probably, I think this one will see the least play of all of the ones so far, but you know what? It's just always going to have the potential to be a specific searcher, which is nice.
Yeah.
Okay, we've got Nyx, which is a 4 CP AK forward, category 15, job Kingsglaive. When Nyx enters the field, put 1 job Kingsglaive you control into the break zone. When you do so, break 1 forward. When a job Kingsglaive other than Nyx is put into the field from the break zone, into the break zone from the field, you can select one of the 2 following actions. The first one is giving him haste. The second one is dulling a forward. Both are very strong. So basically, he can come in and break that crow that we just saw. He gives himself haste, break a forward, and then he can swing in, which is nice. But he could also just dull something so that the rest of your forwards could swing through. And there's even applications where Crow just breaks herself because Nyx is already on the field, and you dull 2 forwards, allowing all your forwards to get through. So there's some pretty cool applications for him. He seems pretty strong. Breaking your own backups is always a risky game, and that's where this becomes difficult to play. But I think it's just strong enough that it will see play in both Earth Lightning, and it could even see play in Mono Lightning.
Yeah. Absolutely. And generally, this is going to be a card that you as the player are going to be very careful about when you put it down so that it's most optimal for you. Interesting to note, because it could be relevant, he can choose himself as well. He can literally come down, break himself to get the effect, which as Alex pointed out, if you don't need the haste, what if you have 1 word and you just need the dull, come in, break himself, boom, you dulled something, now your other guy can swipe in. So it's kind of nice that he has that versatility. I'm hoping, my one fear is that, again, like you said, kind of removing one of your own characters is always a little risky. So I'm hoping this isn't a case of like, oh, he reads well, but in reality, it just doesn't feel that good to play. So I'm hoping he's a lot of fun to play and that it's a lot more enjoyable and worthwhile to do it than maybe the downsides might suggest.
Yeah, it's a tough one to evaluate. It's definitely one that you need a feel for, so we're going to have to play with it a bit before we make too much of a judgment.
Absolutely.
Okay, hey, puck you, man.
Jeez, that was cold, and I thought we were friends here. So Puck. Puck is a 4 CP backup job prince from Final Fantasy IX. Always liked this character from 9. He's kind of just random and was really only relevant to the very beginning with Vivi, but he had such a neat little design. Anyway, when Puck enters the field, choose one forward of cost 1 in your break zone. Play it onto the field. At damage 3, when Puck enters the field, choose one forward of cost 2 in your break zone. Play it onto the field. I think Alex is a lot higher on this than I am. Again, when something is limited to cost 1, there's just so... It just limits it so much, and this is 4 CP on its own, so I guess I'm just not familiar enough with like the 1 CP lightning cards that you're really going to want to jam with this. And granted, you can do this multiple element. You do this with fire. You know, there's that great VV card in fire that does a burn based on how many 9 characters you control, so it would feed into that. So I can see the potential of this, but I don't know. It's and like backups with damage ability like this always strike me, because again, to me it always comes down to when do you draw it. Because if you draw this in your opening hand, are you going to hang around till you get to 3 damage to get a backup out? Probably not. You know, you want to get his effect off. But, you know, if you draw him when you're at 4 backups and you're at 3 damage, oh, he feels perfect because, cool, I'm right where I want to be, and boom. Yeah, so we'll have to see. Maybe he's better than I'm giving him. Right now, I'm a little worried. What do you think?
I think he's got a lot of potential. I was super happy to see him printed because I'm always bugging my buddy David, my fellow podcast host, about 9, which is his favorite game. I'm always talking about the Rat Boy, which is Puck, and we actually had really was a true sign of our friendship. We had a tremendous argument about this card where it got very personal, and it was pretty fun though. I think this card fits really well in both Lightning Water FF9 and also Mono Lightning because it can bring back the 1 CP VV, and then it also counts itself as a 9 character. So if you have 2 other 9 backups, which is incredibly easy to do, then you've got a 7k ping. If he plays a 1 CP card, if like for instance, if you pitch a VV and a card for Puck, then you just pay their 1 CP each. So Puck's a 1 CP backup, VV's the 1 CP forward. So that's obviously really good right there. So he's fine without damage 3, but damage 3 is an easier damage to get to. You are also playing Kuja, which puts a damage onto your right, like it takes 1 damage for you. So that's kind of getting you where you need to go. And then as soon as you get to damage 3, he becomes a plus value backup, which is really nice. And the way that you have to imagine him is that he's not a backup in your deck. He is a summon. Okay, you're playing him like he's a 4 CP Phoenix. You're playing him for this potent ability. You're not counting on him to be a reliable backup that you can play just like your other backups. When I do deck building, I count him as 0.5 of a backup. So if I counted up my backups, for example, Raubon and Earth would be 0.5 of a backup as well. So you would say, okay, well I have 17.5 backups, or if you had him and maybe 14 others. You would say, well, I have 14.5. That's probably not enough. I need to add something extra. So he takes that kind of summon slot from your deck building. So in Mono Lightning, he's going to play 1 CP Ramza, which is an incredible card in Mono Lightning. I highly recommend you try that out if you haven't yet. And he also plays Glocka. So you can play double forwards out and then play some more forwards. And I just think there's so much potential here as a 1 of, as a 2 of, whatever it is. And then you can break them. You can use Gadgeteer to bring them back. You can break him and Gadgeteer to play your X-Death. Like there's a lot going on with this card.
If at the end of this opus, Alex is right about all this, I'm going to come back and be like, hey man, Puck me, right? I was wrong.
Yeah. I'm not saying this card's going to be a meta card. I think it's a powerful card. I think it could be. I think that it's right there. Like it's just like, and it's a really interesting card again. Like it's lots of very interesting cards, this opus, that require more than just, oh, like this card does this thing automatically and it's good. It's like, no, you need to build and flex your deck building muscles with these cards. Okay, here we go. Anima. This is a card that is packed with text, and it's nothing's going to happen right away when you play it, so you have to be prepared to play with it. So it's a 4 CP AK forward job falsy from category 13, but also category Mobius, which is an important distinction because that helps with Maya and other cards. So you could actually give this haste with Maya and Mono Lightning or other decks. So he reads, when a forward your opponent controls is put from the field into the break zone, choose one forward your opponent controls and dull it. So if you're using removal on a card, it becomes double removal because you get your removal and you get your bypass, which is great in Lightning. And it also has 0. Choose one forward your opponent controls, deal it 2,000 damage. This ability can only be used once per turn. This is an incredibly strong ability on a Lightning forward because it makes all of your break a damage forward, damage a damaged forward effects live with 0 investment. And that could be the turn that he comes in. So this card has a lot of potential, and it's very fair because it doesn't have anything that it does right away, but if it sits around, it's going to give you so much value.
Yeah, definitely Sakura's best friend, being able to just ping for that 2,000. And yeah, you made a really good argument for it. And again, he's on curve beyond that, so everything else is just gravy. I could definitely see this being surprisingly swingy. And like you said, not only are you getting rid of a forward, now you have to dull something else. So in a combat turn, like let's say you've got 3 blockers and they've got 3 attackers, they don't want to trade because if they trade, they're going to lose 2 people instead of just 1. You know, suddenly they can only attack with 1 less. I will have to say though, when this first was revealed, I thought this was going to be Anima from Final Fantasy X.
Me too. Yeah.
Eunice summon, and so when I looked at it, I was like, well, this doesn't look like it. Now that I know it's 13, like, oh, this isn't him at all. So even though that's totally unrelated to the card, I can't help but be a little disappointed by that. Because I'm like, oh, I thought we were getting Anima. But no, I like this card a lot. It looks really fun.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on to our 1 CP summon.
1 CP summon from Final Fantasy Tactics Advance. This is Andromek, the Wrath, EX Burst. So, choose 1 active forward, deal it 6,000 damage. If your opponent has received 5 points of damage or more, deal it 9,000 damage instead. This is the Lightning version of the Shiva we got, and all these 1-cost summons are coming into play now. And, I mean, it's the exact equivalent to the Shiva. Obviously, it wants an active forward because it's Lightning versus Dull. I do think that's a solid amount of damage to do for 1 CP, and he's an EX Burst, so that's great. Except for the fact that, again, EX Burst kind of works better with Shiva because chances are if they've swung into you, they're going to be dull. So unless it's someone with Brave, there's a chance that, oh, well, now I can't even hit anyone because no one's active anymore with him. Other than that, again, though, but 1 CP is never bad. I don't know how much this will or won't see play. I honestly prefer the 2 CP Ramu we got last set that just blasts something for 8,000 regardless of what its value is. But, yeah, I mean, it could be okay.
I don't like this card that much. It's fine though. Like there's synergies with it in Lightning, but overall, yeah, it's not. These cards aren't meant to be that strong on their own because they have the damage ability. That's what makes them strong. So it's really just a risk thing. Sometimes
I wonder if these were printed specifically as a power creep or adjustment to raise the curve of the Opus 1 versions of these cards, because they're all just one better than the Opus versions with the damage caveat. So I wonder if it was like, well, those never saw play, so let's make a version that at least might see play again. So I wonder if this was just a way to tune up those cards a bit.
Yeah, very well could be, and they also specifically were printed in this set for the 3CP Rydia to be able to find them unlimited. So
absolutely.
Next we have Maya, which is a 3CP 7K Lightning Forward, job Mobius, category Mobius, job Witch, and this is the basic art for her standard job when you get her in Mobius, and there's a lot of art for every single character in Mobius, so it's really exciting. They have an infinite number of like Maya's walls, Sarah's that they can print, and they all have really nice art. So she's got a lot of text. If you control a job warrior of light forward or a light forward, then Maya gains 2,000 power. When a light or dark character either player controls is put from the field to the break zone, choose 1 character other than light or dark in your break zone, add it to your hand. That's a really powerful effect because you get a character, like anything you want besides a summon, back into your hand, and it kind of like your opponents are going to be running lots of dark and light cards, so if you have her out and you break those, you get to recur stuff, which is neat. And you can play a light character, a light forward pretty easily. Playing a warrior of light is a little bit harder in lightning because there aren't warriors of light in lightning, and they don't synergize with lightning that well. You can't even play like the legend wall with this card, but you might play in earth lightning the earth legend wall. So there's some possibilities there, but you're more than likely going to play a light forward with Maya.
That is a lot of text on this card when I'm just going to play the Opus IX Maya instead.
It's true, yeah.
I don't like this card very much. Her art is nice, but to me, the Opus IX Maya is just way more reliable. They have the same stat line, and her effects are going to be live every turn. Double effect if you're on damage 5. Doling something is always strong. The haste is the one I use the least of, but there's on occasion I've gotten to get it off. And then the first strike 1k. Again, this one, in the right circumstance, this could be very strong. But like, I personally, I don't run light and dark very much. And some of the guys at my locals, like some of them do. There's some people I know this card specifically would be very good against them, but there's other people it's like they don't even run light and dark, so this would be pointless against them. This would be one of those cards that if Final Fantasy ever had a side deck, it would be a great one. All right, let me slot this in because it's going to be great against this counter. But in general, I just am always going to favor the reliability of the other Maya for the same stat line, as opposed to a couple occasions where this would be strong. So that's how I see her.
I agree with you. I'd play the other Maya over this one as well. It is your light and dark characters as well, so that's kind of neat. Like light and dark backups, forwards, whatever it is, whatever you play, when they die, you can control that too in certain decks. If you're playing a lightning water deck, you can fanfrit your own card and recur something, which is kind of neat. But it is a lot of work, so I think you're right that if people are going to play a Maya, it's going to be the legend version. Okay, back to Kingsglaive.
Well, if it isn't the pill popper himself, this is Libertas, 5 cost, 7k forward, EX burst. Job Kingsglaive, category 15. I believe this is the guy who had his leg broken in the movie, and so he was constantly like taking pain pills to get over it. When Libertas enters the field, choose one category 15 character in your break zone. Add it to your hand. If it is card name Nyx, select up to 2 backups. Activate them. So you'll always get a 15 character, including a backup, which is really nice. So again, essentially he's a soft 3 CP, and you'll get that on a burst, which is great. And then ideally, of course, you're going to want to go for a Nyx, because then you're going to get 2 backups out of it too, which is not something Lightning does. You know, it's very much a win thing. So that gives Lightning access to an effect it doesn't normally have. Yeah, I really like this card. He's great. He fits with the Kingsglaive theme. He's a burst, so again, a burst that gives you a character back is never a bad idea. You're going to be running him in the 15 deck, and the fact that you could get that Nyx back and then drop his cost by another 2 CP, he basically is a soft 1 CP at that point if you do that. So yeah, I like this guy a lot, especially as a common. He's very solid in that package.
Yeah, I love that they made this fully playable in just a 15 deck, but then also in a Kingsglaive deck you don't have to pick. He's going to be still good value in a regular 15 deck, and then obviously better with Nyx. And bringing Nyx back is pretty important because he's a card you have to set up, and you might have to pitch him for CP until you can get him ready to go, so this will ensure that you can bring him back. And in general, when you're breaking things like Kingsglaives, you want to bring those back so you can do it some more, or just to replace them. So just a really solid card.
Yeah, 100%. I'm glad to, we'll touch on this in Kingsglaive in general, but I'm glad to see Kingsglaive got so much support. Because sometimes when they try to push these archetypes, it's like, we'll give it 1 new card. It's like, yeah, well, cool, thanks. That's not very helpful. So I'm glad it got multiple people, including which I believe our next one is a Kingsglaive as well.
Yes. I'm going to call this guy Luch. He's, I don't know if that's how they say his name or not. 2 CP Kingsglaive backup, and he's got 2 lightning, generic, and doll. Put Luch into the break zone. Choose 1 forward, break it. Your opponent draws a card. So this is a 4 CP break a forward, and it's kind of it's got a few things going for it. It's a break glass in case of emergency. It's just a universal break, which is pretty nice, and it also has some closing out game potential, and it's also a 2 CP Kingsglaive target. So all of those things are okay. I don't think you're going to use this break ability very often at all, but I think he's probably worth a look in a Kingsglaive deck just to have something efficient to put out. You are losing a bit of value when you're playing a 2 CP backup that you don't intend to use besides breaking it. But, just a solid addition for Kingsglaive.
Yeah, he fits with the package. In particular, to me, what makes him so threatening is that it is a universal break. Lightning generally wants an active forward. He doesn't care if it's active. And there's no cost restriction either.
Cost
there's
restriction.
It's got to be 3 or less. They could slam down, something huge. They could slam down, an Estinian or a Kane or Shantota. It's like, that's nice. Bye. The fact that it just has an unrestricted ability to break, I think, is very strong, which is why they put your opponent gets a card back, because it's just like, oh man, you just shredded my Sephiroth or my Kadaj or Veritas with that thing. So, and again, he fits into the Kingsglaive package. So, if nothing else, you can sack him for Nyx to give his effect. So, yeah, I like him a lot.
Okay, let's move on to another archetype that got some support this set.
Well, this guy's kind of rude. Okay. 3 CP forward, 7k Rude from Member of the Turks, Final Fantasy VII. If you control a card named Rufus, Rude gains 3,000 power. If you control a job member of the Turks other than Rude gains first strike. So if you've just got Rufus out with him as the duo, he's 10k first strike for 3 CP. That's nothing to sneeze at. Again, I don't know Turks a whole lot, so maybe I'll let you comment more. At his base power, he seems like he could be... It'll be really interesting to see if the people who run these, which versions they're going to run. Do you run this with the backup Reno? Do you run this with Rufus? Like, who do you run the backup version of versus who do you run the full version of? Maybe you run them all in some kind of crazy ultimate package. For the Turks, he seems like he fits in really well. But again, I don't too disruptible. How do you feel about this guy?
So it's important to know that Rufus isn't a Turk. He's a president.
Oh, that's right.
So if you have Rufus out, Rude gains 3,000 power, but it does not have first strike. If you have Reno out, he gets first strike. Or now if you have Elena out, he gets first strike. So you need to have multiple cards to get all abilities, which is why you might consider running one forward and one backup of the pair. So either you're going to run the Rude backup, so you get... and we'll see Reno in a second and why that might be good. Or you're going to run the Reno backup, so you get 3 CP 7k first strike, which isn't terrible, but also not particularly great. The Reno backup is way better than the Rude backup because it breaks itself, which goes with Rufus's ability, and has a really powerful special. So I do like the Reno backup quite a bit. But I also like the Reno forward quite a bit compared to the other ones. I've seen people make the argument, oh, this one's better because first strike's a powerful keyword. And then I've seen someone make the exact same argument, oh, well, haste is the best keyword, so it's the best one. And it's like, well, they're both good, but they're very contingent on a lot of support.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got Reno. He's exactly the same as Rude, 3 CP 7k member of the Turks, and if you control Rufus, he gets 3k, so same thing there. If you have another member of the Turks, he gets haste. So you're really just deciding what backup utility you want. So Rude as a backup can boost Reno a further 1k. He can have a pretty nice special. And by that I mean it's a meme, but it's hilarious when you use that special. So really, the better card for backup and forward is Reno, but you can't play both, which kind of makes it a little difficult to pick. I would probably play Rude and then this Reno because I love having a nice haster, but I'm getting less and less thrilled about these Turks the more I see them.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have anything else to add. I think you should...
Okay, well, let's go on to the starter deck then.
Azul! So it's Dadaluma 2.0. Well, not really, but some people thought maybe. So Azul is a 3 CP, 7k forward, Job Savets from Final Fantasy VII. When Azul is dealt damage, choose a forward opponent controls, deal it 1,000 damage. At damage 3, he gains. When Azul is dealt damage, choose one forward opponent controls, deal it 2,000 damage. And at damage 5, Azul gains. When Azul is dealt damage, choose one forward opponent controls, deal it 3,000 damage. So at damage 5, all those would stack. You're pinging for 6. Undeniably strong. Definitely does not have the versatility Dadaluma had, where he simply by being chosen would start his ping off, and then he was always just a flat 4. Whereas again, this one you have to get to 5 damage to surpass that 4 count. 3 and below or 4 and below, he's just 3K. I don't know. I just don't know. He's also lightning, not earth, which I feel like part of the whole reason Dataluma was so successful is because Earth Wind is such a strong package, and he had the Cactars. So I don't see this guy being anywhere close to what Dataluma was. He's probably a more fair version of him, balanced version to be sure, but I don't know. I don't know if he's honestly going to see much play, period. Like, he strikes me as one of those cards that, again, there's just a lot you've got to do to get his effects online, and unlike Dataluma, the second he comes down, he's taking something out. This guy, I mean, what if you're not at 3 damage, or what if you're not to that 5 damage? Like, it just makes him so much more risky and unreliable. So I don't know. I'm not really feeling this guy.
Azul can't be used like Dataluma until you're at 5 damage. So he's automatically written off. That's not a dependable way to play the game, because you have to assemble the Cactar and the Azul and all that. And in Lightning Wind, that's actually like a really good combo pair to do it in, but it's just, it won't work the same way. I think you might play this guy to get a 7 character that can trade up, that becomes better over time, that is searchable in Lightning Ice 7. He has and he'd just be like a really efficient blocker, because he can trade up into an 8K right off the bat. He can trade up even higher later on, and he could eventually become pretty interesting with the pings. But overall, like, he'll just be slotted in as an extra character and not as a mainstay.
Yeah.
Finally, we have Sephiroth.
Sephiroth
Is a 3 CP. I knew you were going to do that. Is a 3 CP 9K job soldier, which is great, and category 7. When he attacks, doll all the forwards your opponent controls with 8,000 power or less. At the end of each of your turns, remove 3 cards from the break zone from the game, or put Sephiroth into the break zone. So this card can get out of hand later in the game. I don't think you're going to have any trouble with removing 3 cards later in the game. Like, it won't be an issue, and you'll be putting more into the break zone. So you just have to watch out against Earth, because they could misdragon your break zone and make you kill this guy. But then again, he's pretty much dead against Earth too, because I played against this Sephiroth when I was playing a lot of mono Earth, and my opponent's like, you literally don't have an 8,000 or less forward. There's no targets for Sephiroth in your deck.
When I played my Warrior of Light deck, guys huge. Like, generally they're all 10K and above, like 12. And someone put him down. I was like, that's nice.
Yeah,
gonna work. But no, he's another one that, like, he's so strong for his text. I think his penalty is honestly really easy to pay. Like I said, Lightning generally doesn't do a lot of recursion from earlier. So the fact that it simply removed 3 cards, okay, that's such not a big deal to pay. For 3 costs 9K, that would be strong on its own. But then that effect that he can just whoosh, like you said, yeah, against the wrong deck, that's not going to work. But against not the wrong deck, he's gonna just, hey, I'm Bahamut Zero, have fun, your whole board's dull. So yeah, he's a beast. Also, could he look any cooler in his artwork? I don't think so.
Yeah, exactly. Just tremendous full art, and this, as we mentioned in the Earth video, this plays really well with the 2 CP Cloud from the starter. So I think those are 2 cards you can put together. Just a really interesting card. It will punish other decks. Like, for example, this might help you close a game out against Wind Water, because they have a lot of weaker forwards. Or same thing with WAF. They don't actually have too many big forwards, depending on the board state. So you might be able to dull a few things. Although there probably are going to be dull because they're beating you down. But
right.
Yeah, I think it's a neat forward, and it's cool to see Sephiroth into another color as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, what are your thoughts overall on this Lightning set here?
I really like Lightning a lot, but I will also admit I'm very favored towards the 15 and the Kingsglaive characters. And so part of the reason I'm so high on Lightning is because 15 specifically got so much love. The Turks I was a little excited for, but I have to admit, the more I look at them, the more I wonder, I don't know how good these things are actually going to be. And of course, any 7 love this set got. The Sephiroth is pretty nice. The Glauca is really nice. But if you take off the 15 stuff, how good is Lightning really? Because as I'm looking back over the cards, I don't know how great they are. Again, the 15 stuff is what really stands out to me. What did you think?
I think Lightning got some interesting tools. I think that the Legends are both strong, and that Glocka is very strong. Gadgeteer has a lot of potential, and then the rest of it is all like fine. It's not one of the stronger groups, but it's a good group, and there's some really interesting little things that require a lot of work, like Anima and Puck, and then the Kingsglaive package. I think overall a good set for Lightning. Like there's never, like if you look back at all the sets in FFTCG, the only element you would ever say, oh, bad set for this element would be fire. Like you would say that all the time.
Yeah.
But then all the other set elements, like you generally always get some neat stuff, and there's no exception here. So that's it. And we have one more element to go through before we do our light and dark video. So that's water. We'll do that next. And thank you so much for watching, everybody.
Take care.
Yeah. See ya. Thank you so much for watching. You can like and subscribe to support us further, and you can read the Mysidia Post articles at themysidiapost.com. You can also check out our Patreon if you want to support us more. And if you need FFTCG singles, then look no further than Cards That You Release. They've got great deals and prices. Check them out. Finally, I'd like to thank FF Decks for creating the best website for creating your Final Fantasy trading card game decks. They've also got a Patreon, so make sure you go check them out. They work so hard for the community, so let's pay them back. See you next time.